talk about tonight, Flesh Old Boy?
We're naming names.
We're using names.
I don't know, are we?
I don't know.
Do you think we should?
I don't know. Well, you could be anybody, couldn't you?
Oh, so could you.
All right. Then.
I've not named you yet.
No, okay. So you leave that for the moment then.
Do we ought to say a welcome?
You could do.
To
What?
policing?
Yeah. And whoever might be listening?
Yeah,
Whoever it is.
our first listeners.
Who do you think they'll be?
Well, we ought to say who we are, didn't we? You know, we are policing, Bobbies, British Bobbies.
Not anymore.
Off the cuff.
Not anymore.
Well, not anymore. No, we are ex-cops.
And that puts us in a unique position.
It does.
Because we can say what we are.
Well, to a degree.
We can tell people about, or talk about things that we might have done, or other people might have done.
Or are still doing.
Oh, yeah, they could be, couldn't they? So, go on then, what did you used to do in the police?
Do you want to know what did before the police, or so we go straight to the policing?
So? Do you think that might?
I don't know.
Be interested in that?
Because I think we should give the listeners a bit of background
to get to know us.
Well, yeah, and we need to let them know that we are credible.
Okay. So
I am.
All right then. So what did you do before the police?
I was in the Navy.
Ooh. What were you in the Navy?
I can't tell you that.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, no.
Is that like official secrets kind of stuff?
I used to change light bulbs. I was an engineer. I trained as an engineer.
And how long were you in the Navy for?
I did 9 years, man and boy, as it was called then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I joined the police.
You couldn't really call it that now, though, could you?
Probably not.
No.
But that's what this podcast is all about, isn't it?
A lot of it will be.
Will be. Yeah. What about yourself then?
I was a greengrocer.
A greengrocer?
I know. That surprises a lot of people.
And how long was you a greengrocer for?
All in all, best part of 20 years.
So you were a greengrocer for 20 years and then joined the police?
Yeah. So when I say greengrocer, for a lot of that time, I was working for a company that was a chain of greengrocers. And then I started my own greengrocers. And yeah, it went from there. So a lot of me is still a greengrocer.
And you've got some, you have a claim to fame, don't you?
Do I?
But we could talk about that on another episode.
All right, then, okay. All right, yeah. Well, you can, in the meantime, you can tell me what that claim to fame is.
Didn't you feature in the Sundays? Not the Sundays.
Oh, yeah, that is another story. We'll leave that
the Daily
for the moment. We'll leave that one for the moment.
Is that still going?
No, probably not. I wouldn't have thought. It would have been toned down. I would have thought.
Perhaps.
So go on then. So you're in the Navy and you left the Navy. Did you leave the Navy because you wanted to leave the Navy, or
a bit of both, really? I came to a point where I'd reached a certain point in my career where I didn't want to continue down the avenue that the Navy wanted me to continue down, but I always wanted to be a cop.
From what age did you want to be a cop?
Oh, young.
Did you?
Yeah, 11, 12.
So why don't you just become a cop?
It's a long story.
Okay, all right, we'll come to that another day.
Yeah, another day.
Episode 36.
Yeah.
Okay, so
if we get that far.
So did you get in first time?
I did.
Because it can be tricky.
It can be tricky.
And who did you apply to?
Nottinghamshire Police.
Just Nottinghamshire? Didn't apply to anybody else?
No.
And how long did you take to get in, did you say?
About 8 months, I think.
Well, that was quick. It took me about 18 months.
I was in that swath of recruits in the Blair recruiting campaign, where they were recruiting loads and loads of cops. So you got in because
they were desperate?
Because they were desperate. Pretty much.
Slipped through the net.
I slipped through the net.
And were you surprised when you got in, or when you applied, did you assume that you were going to get in? Was it just like a done deal, I'm bound to get in?
Well, I knew a lot of cops.
Did you? I didn't know any.
I didn't, and I knew some really good cops.
Did you?
And they coached me, mentored me.
Really? When you say good cops, what can you enlarge upon what was good about them? Are we talking about old school good, or were you talking about...
They were just proper old school cops,
Because that's one of the things, isn't it, about our perception of the police, perhaps, is that old school is good, new school...
Not so good.
Not so good.
Well,
possibly.
Again, that's another topic for debate at some other point, isn't it?
All right.
What about yourself then?
What, John? I didn't know anybody that was in the police. Although some friends of the family were in Bristol in CID, but they were a little bit...
Is that real police?
Well, no, it's a little bit... They were a bit dry. not much humour involved. The fruit trade became really difficult and harder and harder. Back in the day, the supermarkets didn't really do fruit and veg. There would be like a 3-foot section with a couple of oranges, a couple of cucumbers, and very little else. And the independent greengrocers trade was fantastic. But unfortunately, the supermarkets cottoned on to the fact that there was a lot of money to be made in fruit and veg, and it resulted in a decline over the years of that trade. Sadly, the independent greengrocer, like the independent butchers and independent fishmongers, you don't get independent fishmongers now, do you? But back in the day, fisheries was massive. It was a really big business. And then, the supermarkets got to know how to do fruit and veg. The business rates inexorably went up and up and up. Staff costs went up. Yeah. So it just meant that eventually there was no money to be made. Well, certainly not in the way that I did it, and like many other independent greengrocers, I stopped. But I did manage to get out and sell it before, anything nasty happened. But just before, I applied to join the police, and I didn't know anybody in it, so I didn't really know anything about the recruitment procedure or anything like that. I didn't have anybody to really give me any advice on what to say, what to do, like I know a lot of people do, don't they? Yeah. And I managed to scrape in, and
And did you apply just to the one post?
Yes, because I live in Nottinghamshire, and that was the one to apply for.
And did you get in first time?
Although no, back in the day, when I was 21, I applied to Avon and Somerset, and but I got turned down by Avon and Somerset. And back in the day,
can you remember what for?
No, I don't think they told you back in the day.
Right.
They didn't actually say why, so you didn't get any big debrief about how you could be different, like I think you do nowadays.
Some developmental feedback.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, you never got that back in the day. But no, you just.
Isn't that just a posh name for criticism?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably like the shit sandwich.
Yes.
Good news, bad news, good news. So.
No, that's the wrong way around. It's bad news. Oh no, it's not. You're right.
No, the shit's in the middle.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I was thinking of shit on toast.
Oh, I've never had that. Anyway, we digress. So. Yes. So I got to the ripe old age of 40 and applied, and when I rang up, I actually said, "Look, I'm an old git now, 40 years old. I'm sure you probably don't want me, but is there any chance of an application?" And all the way through the process, much to my surprise, I got through each stage. I can't remember the stages now, but there were quite a few, and ranging from a paper sift through to actually starting. My process took about 18 months, as opposed to your quick, we're desperate kind of 8 months. Nothing, is it?
So yeah, I mean, I was 26 when I joined, and there were some people in my cohort, intake, whatever you want to call it, who were late 30s, early 40s.
Oh, were there?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I thought I was in my intake. I was one of only a couple of people. It was quite sort of unusual for me to see anybody else, as old as me, 40. Bloody hell, I wish I was 40 again. However, so I was a bit surprised to get in, and I was working ridiculous hours in the fruit trade, 6.5 days a week, and it was fantastic from the moment of joining. It was like one massive long holiday compared to my previous life.
I can imagine.
How did you feel about it when you joined? Was it much of a change?
Yeah, well, I left the Navy and had a period of about 12 months before I actually started in the police, and that was a difficult transitional period for me, coming out of the Navy, being a civilian for 12 months. When I actually joined the police, it was like a breath of fresh air. It changed my life completely. Because from such a young age, going into a uniformed and disciplined environment, to all of a sudden being a civilian, to then going back into a uniformed, disciplined environment, it was just what I needed. And I remember the day putting my hat on, looking at myself in the mirror in my uniform before I went out to meet the rest of my fellow new recruits, and it was like a switch.
Was it?
It was incredible. A feeling I'll never forget, and I loved it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So what was it like that 12 months when between the Navy and then and the police? How did it feel then? What was it like?
For me, it was strange. It was almost incomprehensible because I was talking to people that had only ever been civilians, and I'd only ever been in the armed forces.
Was it alien, completely alien to you?
It was quite alien, yeah. And the attitude of people, the mindset of people was just completely different to what I had been accustomed to and been trained to how to behave and how to deal with things. And, you know, in the armed forces, it's all about teamwork, problem solving, achieving an objective. Civilian life was completely different. It was just every man for himself, or every person for himself.
Did you have any thoughts of, oh God, what have I done? I wish I hadn't left.
Yes, at times, yeah. But as I said, I'd reached a point where the path that the Navy wanted me to continue to take wasn't the path that I wanted to continue to take.
Okay.
If I could have taken the path that I wanted to, I would have probably stopped in longer. I don't think I would have done my full term, but
What's full term for the Navy?
For me, it was 22 years.
Not long, is it? Well, and would you get like a
Yeah.
pension after that?
Yeah.
After 22
Yeah,
years?
there are some cops that that join. They do like 22, 23 years, join as a junior, do a full career, finish. In fact, there was one at Newark.
48 and a half, isn't it? You can finish. After doing 30 years service.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was
join
one.
it.
There was one at Newark. I think he joined at the age of 40, similar to yourself, but had done like 22 years in the army,
Yeah.
and then retired at 50 from the police. I bet he's worth a bob or two
Yeah.
on the old pension scheme.
Yeah.
Something
That's
we could-
another subject.
well, that's another
Pensions.
subject.
Woof.
Yeah. Where we were digressing, weren't we? So, well, anyway, so we have got some similarities, haven't we? We've got a lot in common because obviously we've both been cops.
Yep.
Now both ex-cops.
Both been self-employed. Well, you're self-employed now.
I'm self-employed now.
Yeah. In fact, you employ me now.
In fact, I do employ you now.
You did. That was a bit of a rash decision, to be fair.
Well, we were desperate at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like the police were desperate when they took you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
So, yeah, but we did it the other way around then. So you were self-employed, or you worked for a company, then had your own business, then finished that, joined the police. I was in the police, left the police and became self-employed.
yeah,
But our stories of how we left the police are completely different, aren't
they
they?
are different.
Very different.
Should we save that for another day?
Yeah, I think that'd be good to save that for a different day. Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's
they-
interesting. It's the right can of worms.
They are. Yeah. I mean, mine's not too much of a can of worms, but yours is
Mine's very controversial.
very controversial.
But we'll come to that.
Hmm.
And we'll be honest and frank about it.
We will be honest and frank about it. And I think what's important is that the people that listen to this don't get the impression that because we're ex-cops, we're bitter
No, we're not bitter.
and we're going to be, disparaging about the police service in general. We're not. This is about two blokes who have been cops talking about everyday issues that affect policing
Yeah.
and that affect life in general.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about topics that are controversial,
Yeah.
that are political.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about challenging topics and subjects.
Because I think, like most jobs, there's some great bits. There's some very boring bits.
Yeah.
And there's some shit bits. And, along the way, we can perhaps talk to other people as well. Bring them in, have a chat with them
definitely.
about... Because we both know, don't we, lots of police officers currently that are still serving. But we're...
Well, I would say the majority of our socialising or social life
yeah, I was about... Yeah.
still revolves around
Yeah. So we get to hear the stories.
police,
But
policing.
police being police, though, we hear a lot of moaning, don't we? Not necessarily about
No.
good bits.
No, I mean none of them know.
Would you
Or-
describe
or-
yourself as cynical now, coming out of the police? Did it make you cynical? Because it makes a lot of people cynical, I think.
I think there are elements of me that are cynical. Yeah, I think there are a lot of elements of me that are quick to disbelieve certain things before it's proven otherwise, which sounds very policey, doesn't it? But
Yeah. Does that affect your family life? Do you find it hard to accept what people say unreservedly?
well, if one of my children comes home and says that they got into trouble for no reason at school, the first thing I think of is, oh yeah, Of course you're innocent. Of course you are.
But you're little angels, though. And would the mother of those little angels, your darling wife, would she be more inclined to believe they've been hard done by when they
So
come
is that
out
wrong,
with the
that?
same story of woe?
Is that wrong that I don't believe my children on first account?
Oh, well. I think that's an interesting one, actually. I've never really thought about that. But I'm the same. If I have a lovely stepson, and I have 3 lovely daughters. And I don't know why I have to prefix it with lovely, because everybody's kids are lovely, aren't they? Well, perhaps they're not. But I have to say, when I'm presented with a situation that I would have seen 1,000 times before in the police about, I ain't done nothing, etc., my first thought is, oh, for God's sake, what have you actually done? What is the reality of this situation?
Yeah.
Just be honest with me. Tell me what actually has happened without the bullshit, and then we can deal with it.
So yes, I think there's elements of your police life that still have a bearing and impact on how you are.
Yeah. Do you think it makes you judgmental? So if someone of a certain appearance,
Yeah, absolutely.
or someone of a certain way of speaking,
Of course.
or attitude,
Yeah. I don't think you can spend that much time dealing with the things that you deal with in the police and it not have an impact on your life outside of the police.
do you think it makes your judgment better being a police officer, or do you think it just makes you more judgmental, not always reasonable?
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think we're going a bit too deep on this?
Yeah, could be. Forget that.
On the
Forget
first
that.
one.
What have been some of the good bits in your career? What have been the times when you look back and think, oh, that was fantastic?
Well, I'm very fortunate, and even though I'm now no longer in the police, I'm different to a lot of ex-cops.
Oh, I'm different. I'm special.
Because I missed the job terribly.
Is that
of the
because you were
circumstances.
firearms?
Well, we can come on to that one, yes.
Because they're all special, aren't they?
Can you just pass me that protein shake?
Yeah. What, and the Gucci...
And the mirror.
And the
so I
Gucci
could-
jacket?
Yeah, and the mirror, so I can
Yeah,
just do me,
yeah.
just get my hair
Get your
jelly.
gel. You got enough gel on?
Yeah, yeah. Next thing you'll be saying, I never took any statements and I wrote in cranes.
Yeah, well, you didn't, did you?
What, writing cranes?
Well, you never took anybody's statements.
No, because I was always in the gym.
Yeah, that's right. So come on then. What were the best bits of your career? It wasn't just holding a big fat heckler and cock, was it?
I love the way you just pronounced that. My first couple of years were brilliant. You know, when I first started, I was fortunate enough in the Navy to travel around the world, be involved in loads of things.
What, warfare?
Counter drugs, counter terrorism, humanitarian, disaster relief. I was so fortunate. It was great and I loved it. And I thought when I joined the police I was quite, worldly wide and I'd seen a bit of life. And then I joined the police, did my training, then went to my first station as a probationer. And I thought I'd landed on a different planet.
Really?
The things I've been exposed to in the forces, I couldn't believe what I was seeing in this country.
Oh, in what way?
I've never seen so much heroin.
Oh, okay.
Almost every offender appeared to be on heroin.
Right.
There was the place where I worked. It was nicknamed the Brown Town.
Really? Where was that? You can say, I think.
Do you think?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Well, it was
Well, it's factual, isn't it? You're not making it up.
No, I'm not making it
Well,
up.
you
But
might be making
perhaps
it
don't.
up, but there you go.
Perhaps.
All right, okay.
Well,
Was
maybe
it,
it's
was it in
time.
Nottinghamshire?
It was in Nottinghamshire, very North
The
Nottinghamshire.
Brown Town. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
Everybody was on heroin.
Really? What? The cops? Just the customers?
Just the customers.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
There's so many highlights, too many to mention really. But again, I had a very varied career.
So that didn't give you any kind of despair that you had ended up policing something which was called the Brown Town.
No, not at all. It was just an eye opener to me, who thought I knew quite a lot about life.
Did you know much about drugs before? There must have been drugs in the Navy.
What do you mean, like the personnel using?
Yeah. Or not?
Yeah, there was a little bit of recreational drugs, but we had you get random drug tests in the Navy.
What proper random drug tests that you didn't know were going to happen?
Oh yeah, proper random drug tests.
Really?
Yeah. And I had friends that were kicked out, You know,
Did you?
colleagues, yeah, that failed drug test.
What would they use? What would
Cannabis.
was that the most predominant one?
It was rare.
Because it smells.
It was
That's
very
the thing
rare.
about cannabis.
Yeah, but they wouldn't use it anywhere near establishments.
Right. Okay.
They'd use it when they were.
So they wouldn't be on board with these.
Oh
drugs,
no.
Would nobody risk taking it on board?
No, they take urine samples and hair samples.
How often though?
It was random. It was random.
What, like once a year? Once
Well,
a
your
couple
name
of
would
years?
just get drawn out of a hat. You might end up with getting done twice a year.
Really? So what would they do? How would they tell you that you got the drug test?
They would just arrive on the ship or at the establishment, and they'd read out a list of names, and they'd fetch you, and they'd take a urine sample and a hair sample.
What? So they'd literally turn up at your bunk or whatever and say, or where you're working, and say, right, you're coming with us. Who was that then? Who was it? Like military police? Or
the naval provost. Yeah, the naval provost. That's what we call it. The naval police.
All right. And right. Okay. And
the thing about cannabis is, even if you smoked it 8 weeks ago, they take a hair sample.
It's still in there.
It's in your hair, isn't it?
Yeah.
You see, so and that, you know,
How many?
it was very rare. It was rare. It was quite. When I was serving, it wasn't particularly common for people.
Do you think it'd be
to fail
different
drugs.
now? Do you know anybody still in the Navy?
No.
Hmm.
No. But some point. So yeah, I did come across drugs, but I came across drugs in a professional capacity, doing counter drugs stuff. So yeah, I did come across lots of drugs, but I'm talking in the hundreds of thousands of pounds quantities, even millions of pounds quantities.
Wow. Sorry, in this like in Navy,
In the Navy.
policing, what, catching boats
Yeah,
travelling
that's right.
across. Wow.
Yeah. Doing counter
So
drugs.
we've been there with seizures of huge. Have you?
Yeah.
That must have been quite exciting.
It-
What,
very-
boarding
Yes.
shitty little ships that...
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So then to see it, I've seen it at both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I've seen, the huge amounts that come from, well, in particular, okay, so the area I was working in was around South America, Caribbean.
Right.
So to see huge amounts in that quantity, then to land in, Nottinghamshire, in a northern
Where everybody's on a little
Town.
10 quid bag.
10, 20 quid. So I've seen both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. Okay. So does that make you very anti-drugs?
I am anti-drugs, yes.
Big time.
Yes.
Okay.
But again, there's a debate there, isn't there?
'Cause I've
What we
often
can do with the drug problem in the UK.
Yeah. Perhaps save that for another time. I don't know. But I was brought up with no knowledge of drug use at all, apart from one pal at school who everybody knew had the occasional cannabis cigarette. And that was it, one person out of hundreds. And he was considered to be completely alien to us, like totally different, and he used drugs, and I didn't have any kind of knowledge of drugs whatsoever. So when I joined the police, it was a whole new, wide, awakening of how a large section of the community goes about their daily life, and it was a bit of a shock, to be honest, for me, to see how many people were taking really hard drugs was a shock, and and along with it, how the vast majority of the crime appeared to be being committed by that tiny little minority that were using the drugs. So I'd had quite a sheltered life when I joined, so a lot of it to me was like, wow, eye-opening and quite alien.
So, highlights for you in your policing career?
Ooh.
I never answered that question actually. We can talk about that another day, but go on. What were your highlights then?
I don't know. I think
Getting in at the age of 40.
Yeah, and that was a surprise. That was a big surprise because I assumed throughout the whole process that they were just being politically correct.
Ooh.
But
Is that a term is that like a real term then, politically correct, or is it made up?
oh no, PC in the police world is massive.
Oh, I know it is, but do you think PC, political correctness, do you think that phrase is a phrase that's been invented by the media or invented by...
I think so, but I think possibly it is. However,
But because what is political correctness? But we're digressing again. Again, that's perhaps for another episode.
Yes, crikey, we talk about that quite a bit, don't we, when we're
working.
When we're working, because interestingly, that's why we're doing the podcast, isn't it? Because we regularly, almost on a daily basis, have all about life and the real world kind of debates, and we thought eventually that actually they amuse us, so perhaps they may amuse other people.
Yeah.
But highlight-wise, I spent my whole career on response. So just going to the everyday job that come in, and whether they be...
You didn't get promoted to CID or anything like that then?
Promoted to CID? That's interesting. Well, back in the day, of course it was, wasn't it? Before I joined, I think it was. Do you
think?
It was, yeah.
What, to be an elite detective?
It was a feather in your cap to be a detective.
An elite detective? Like an elite firearms
officer?
elite?
Are they all the detectives elite?
I don't
back
know.
in the day, I think they were.
Well, maybe some of our listeners will tell us.
Yeah, and perhaps some of the elite detectives currently.
Or would like to comment.
Yeah, they can join us.
Send us some feedback.
Yeah. But my highlights tend to be in relation to individual jobs with the team of people, because I had the fortune, like you, of being part of a really, really good shift. And of course, the concept of a really good shift for old school cops is perhaps slightly different to the new generation of, some people call them snowflake cops.
The snowflake generation.
But, so I often remember individual jobs where by your own efforts or the team efforts, you managed to get hold of someone particularly nasty or somebody particularly evasive and put the cuffs on them and drag them in kicking and screaming. Those are the things that I remember, I think. So
satisfying results.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, over the years, though, that percentage of jobs that were satisfying became smaller and smaller. And so the overwhelming tsunami of shit jobs, as they're called technically. I don't know whether they're still called shit jobs, but they certainly were throughout my whole service.
Yes. And of course, the level of bureaucracy.
Well, back in the day, you used to spend a lot of time going out, catching bad people, turning them over, which is just basically stopping them, searching them. You know, people that were regular shoplifters or drug users that were acting in a way that indicated that they'd just stolen something or just done a deal, and we used to just relentlessly turn them over.
Proactive.
But
that's not what
it's all gone now.
The police service is now, is it?
No.
Modern day frontline cops.
The trouble with being proactive is that it creates crime, doesn't it? It's no good creating crime, because the last thing the police service wants is a new crime being recorded.
Unless it's detected.
And the old saying used to be, back in the day, never crime anything until you've detected it.
Ooh, yes. Ethical crime recording.
Yes. Of course, back in 2010, Nottinghamshire Police weren't very good
at
recording anything.
Where were Nottinghamshire Police on the list in 2010?
What, out of 40-odd forces in the country? We were bottom.
That's sad.
Well, the press had a field day with it.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Yeah, we were the worst performing force in the country. Well, you can't use the term force now, can you? Service, yes.
Be careful.
We don't
want to alienate serving cops, do we? We want to get them on board.
Well,
so we don't want to alienate them by saying, they're still in the police force.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, what, the snowflake generation, or are we talking about the old cops? Anyway.
Real cops.
But the nice thing about being bottom is that, hey,
there's only one way to go.
There's only one way to go. And, I don't know. So I think by some sheer fluke, we ended up near the top, didn't we, in a very short period of time? But that may have been due to massaging the figures.
Ooh.
Did you have any experience of that?
Well, I think, again, that's for another day.
Do you think so?
Yeah, because I think we've introduced ourselves. We've given a bit of background about ourselves, who we are,
Okay.
what we've done, why we're running this podcast.
Okay.
So I think we'll perhaps call it a day there.
I think so.
Hopefully our new listeners will tune in, listen to it, and know that on future episodes we're going to be talking about maybe lots of controversial.
Do you think we'll talk about the things that people don't want us to talk about in the police?
I think we'll perhaps be able to
Bosses?
talk about things that people won't want us to talk about or can't talk about that are in the police.
What do you think? What sort of things?
Institutional racism,
Ooh.
unethical crime recording.
Ooh. Do you think so? Be careful with that one.
Ooh, yeah.
I've got a few stories about that.
Well, I think we all have. I think we can talk about. I think some of the topics we can cover, topical topics.
Yeah.
Knife crime,
Oh, knife crime.
terrorism.
All right. Can we spread it out a bit to cover things like Shamima Begum?
Absolutely.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Can we mention?
We can take it wider. We can introduce how politics has an impact on policing.
Do you think so?
How religion has an impact on policing.
Race?
Culture, race, everything.
Sexual diversity stuff?
Just diversity.
Ooh, okay. All right. So what do you think we'll talk about next time? The next one coming up?
I don't know, maybe we should ask the listeners for a topic.
Well, see what people want.
Yeah,
Because we could give that a go.
we could give that a go.
Not too sure how good we
We
how
could
good
even,
we'd be then.
I think we might even be able to get some freebies, some giveaways.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
What about food?
We've got some contacts, haven't we?
All right, cool. Okay, I'll go with that.
Some free gizzits.
As usual, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. So that is the end of our first ever podcast.
Didn't go too badly.
Not too badly, considering
Yeah.
we were sat in a pub.
Yeah, true. That was
Originally.
too noisy.
That was too
You
noisy.
had to come back to your gaff.
Yeah,
At least your dog stopped barking.
it's not even my dog. Okay,
Well, it's good night from me.
and good night from me. Or was it good night from him?
I think that was how it was, wasn't it? Was that Smith and Jones?
The two
No.
Ronnies. The two Ronnies.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night.